Alrighty, folks, I think it's time that we check in on the housing bloodbath. Yes, early in the year, we were having some housing experts talk about a 9% housing crash. They were certain that 2025 would be worse than 2024. 2024 was supposed to be -5%, this year, -9%. And I'm sure next year will be some other big negative number because that's just what they do. But I thought we would check with Lance Lambert, the man with the data, who has no agenda, and just ask, where are we at? What are we going to end up with in 2025? And how does 2026 look this early? Lance, what say you? You've got all the data.
Yeah, so where things look on the price front, and one of the things with home prices is that this is an aggregate, right? An aggregate of a lot of different homes across the country, right?
Of course.
And so with the stock market, there's 7,000 stocks, I believe, listed on U.S. stock exchanges in the country. And so even for them, like many of them can go in different directions on any given day, right? And they are on any given day. And then you do have the aggregates like the S&P 500, which is a collection of 500 of them, and kind of gets used as a proxy for the stock market, right? And so with home prices, you have these aggregates, and they're all measuring it a little bit of a different way. You have median price, which is just the middle number of all the sales. If it's a sales price, if it's a list price, it's the middle number of all the list. If it's an average, you're taking them all together, summing them up, dividing it by the number. And then you have these indices that hope to kind of get through some of that mix shift, because if the homes that go into your sample are lower cost homes, that can kind of pull it down. If the ones going into it, or there's an increase at the top, then it can kind of pull it up, even if that's maybe not what's going on. So you have these indices called that are trying to take out some of that mix shift. Mm-hmm. And one of the most common methodologies used is a repeat sales indice. And so you're taking, there's like an algorithm that's made to help to do this, and like a 40-page methodology if you want to look it up on the Case-Shiller index. But you're essentially taking sales in the past, right? And then you're looking at them now to see what that change was over time. And when you do this with all the repeat sales and use this methodology, it helps in theory to take out some of the mix shift. And then they also take some of these repeat sales that are like very short periods of time. And the reason is that's probably a flip, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's some of that in the methodology. And so that's a long-winded way of saying that these are proxies for what's going on, and they're aggregated for U.S. home prices. And even on a metro level, there's still an aggregation there. Mm-hmm. So what have they showed? They've showed that this year, in the past really 16, 17, 18 months, there's been a deceleration in the rate of appreciation in the U.S. housing market. And mm-hmm. so across the indices that I track, they are everywhere from plus 2.3, which that's the FHFA one, which is a little more lagged, and then all the way to 0, which is Zillow. So 0 to 2% appreciation is kind of what we're looking at for 2025 across these, different indices to kind of help to account for some of that mix shift. Now, if you peel back the onion more, what you will see is that right now, of the 50 largest states, about 14 are seeing year-over-year price declines, but there's a greater sample a greater number of those 14 are really big states. California's down a little bit year over year. Texas, Florida, infamously down right now year over year for prices. And so when you look at just the 50 largest markets, 25 are down year over year. And if you go back to November, October of last year, only 8 of the 50. Now, what is also true is that rate of softening has slowed. Right. So I don't really consider, like I've seen some even Logan Motoshami, who's kind of talked about it firming up. I think it's less of a firming, but we had a period of softening, and then the softening has slowed. And now we've kind of stabilized into very, very low levels of appreciation for the national housing market. And so for the past 3 or 4 months, we have stayed at 50 of the 50 largest markets down year over year. It hasn't increased. So it was increasing very quickly, and then it's kind of like tailed off. And if you look at the month over month data and you seasonally adjust it, you'll see that story where it's kind of like the softening has slowed, right? There was
Well, isn't it even, it's even a bigger story. Isn't like some of the markets that people would say are down the most, like Austin, Texas, for example, they're actually up year on year, right? They're down big from 2022, but they're up year on year.
No, Austin's
No?
still falling. You're only
Okay.
the only measurements for Austin that are showing it up are if you're doing things that don't address for mix shift. So the averages is
Mix shift.
higher
Okay.
end stuff. Yeah. So I do see those numbers people show. Like I could show it quickly if you kind of want to see it real fast. Let's actually just check. Let's see where Austin stands. If we're good to jump into it.
Yeah. If you share it, I will bring it on the screen.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay. Let's see what we got.
Just so people know what we're looking at, this is your solution. What is this that we're looking at? Just so people know.
We're in the Resi Club terminal. Give it a second. For some reason, it wasn't loading for a moment.
It's okay.
Just make sure. Okay, there we go. Okay. Let me make sure. Let me see where I am real fast. Take the. Did I grab Austin? Yes. Okay, Austin. Yeah, we're still seeing declines across Austin.
Yep. Okay.
And now what you'll see is that some of these different things that are maybe not accounting for mix shift. I've seen those averages shared. Yeah, Travis County, the core of Austin, still down 7% year over year. And so now we've gotten to a place where give me a second. Since peak, most of the counties around Travis, Hayes down plus 20% year over year
from the
peak.
So
what you have seen is you've started to see a deceleration in the growth of inventory, right? You've seen that uptick in the delistings that occurred this year, and the inventory growth has slowed across a lot of these parts of the country, which has also kind of probably led in this deceleration in the speed of softening. But what we still see though is we still see softness in a lot of the country, and we definitely still see weakness in these pockets of Florida and Texas,
for sure,
specifically in the resale market, where on the resale side, a lot of these existing homeowners still fight it, right? Because they can
wish pricing, man, wish pricing. It's a real thing.
So so where we are on a nationally aggregated basis is 0 to 2% is kind of where we're looking at for the end of the year. It is possible that the Zillow Home Value Index could finish negative for the year. Right now, if you remove all the seasonal adjustments and you just look at how much it's up 0.8% year to date.
Oh, wow.
And it will probably see at least a 0.7% decline the next 2 months without seasonal adjustment.
Okay.
And so if we do the normal seasonal adjustment, it's probably going to stay at the same year over year rate it is right now, which is 0.0, right?
Okay.
If it blows off that 0.7. But there is a chance that like November, December could be a little weaker, and the Zillow Home Value Index could fall 0.2, 0.3 for the year. That's kind of where we're looking for nationally. U.S. existing home sales still very much constrained. It's been the story for 3.5 years. Very low levels of turnover. Active inventory has built to a place where that supply-demand equilibrium have shifted more into buyers' favor. Sure. And we finally entered into 2025 was the first year that we actually saw a improvement in housing affordability, right?
Yes. I think a lot of people have missed that, Lance. I think that's an important one.
And so where this softening has taken us is we've stabilized into a place where we are growing less for prices than incomes and inflation.
Correct.
And so you stay in this period, if we stay here for a while, right, housing affordability will improve. And so this year we saw some help from mortgage rates. The average 30-year fixed mortgage rate, I think it's down like 80, 75 basis
Yeah,
points.
75, 80 points. Yeah,
Incomes are up 4.1% nationally, according to
correct.
the Fed tracker. And of the 50 largest markets, only one is up more than 4.1%. It's Cleveland, and they're up 4.2. So 49 of the 50 largest markets have seen price growth under incomes, right? So that's
That's great.
helpful
That's how you fix it.
because
Just slow and steady.
we had many years where home prices were growing above incomes, right? And then we have the pandemic housing boom where you're way above incomes. And so
Yeah.
I think the real story here is we're still in an affordability constrained environment. Turnover is suppressed,
Hmm.
but appreciation is been sucked off enough that we are in a period where affordability is healing as long as income growth can sustain.
This is what, again, this is what I was calling for a year ago. I said it'd be up 0 to 1%. We need affordability improve. And the unfortunate answer is it's going to take a lot longer than people want. I mean, people want a housing bloodbath. They want it to fall 9% because they think that's the answer. That's not the answer. The answer is slow and steady, years of sideways and, income growth. And, it's not fun. And again, we've done this before. That's what I don't understand why people don't check out the 50-year spreadsheet, right? From 1982 to 94. It took us a long time to kind of work out of this the last time we were here. So, I guess the last question. Go
Some
ahead.
places will see healing faster. With the year-over-year range or the year-over-year figure, there's always a good amount of range from how much markets above it and markets
Oh, of
below.
course. Of course.
So when you hit into that 0 to +2 for national, you're going to have that chunk of markets that's down some, right?
Of course.
And usually those markets end up being the ones that were up the most during the boom period, right?
That's how
And
it works.
so
Yeah.
that's exactly where the Austins kind of fall. That's exactly where Southwest Florida, the Tampas, right? Those markets that were up 70% during the pandemic. And now, some of them are down 5, 10, 15%.
Yeah. Just give back. It went to the extreme. I guess the last thing to kind of close out with you in this wonderful conversation is I've been watching home purchase mortgage applications, and it looks like we're up double digits for most of the year. Is that
So
just pent up demand, or what do you think's
So
coming?
a few things is that I think that what you're seeing there is we have seen that the amount of housing demand, and this is kind of even exclusive of the purchase application index, but the housing demand has been constrained since really the middle of 2022, right?
Correct.
And at some point early on in that shock, we kind of hit the trough for it, right? And so I think some of this is, housing demand is low, right? And given the affordability constraints is still suppressed, but it's kind of, it's come out of that trough and it's maybe up a bit, right?
Okay.
Now, I think with the mortgage purchase application index, the reason that you can have it up year over year this whole year, but then this be the year that we have seen the greatest level of softening is really that supply demand equilibrium. And that even though maybe demand has come up a bit, where it fell to was at such a low level in 2022 that the longer we stay here and homes take longer to absorb, and as that active inventory builds, if active inventory is built more than that increase in demand, then you're still that supply and demand equilibrium is going to move in the favor of buyers. So
Right.
you can have demand rising some this year, but given that supply has risen more and demand is at a low enough place that it's helping it to rise, you can see that equilibrium move more to buyers, even with more demand in the
Yep.
market.
I like it. No,
do
again,
think
buyer's
there's-
market. That's where we are. I love it.
I do think that there is probably a little bit of something to the fact that maybe there's a bit of an uptick in the rejection rates for the
Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
refi numbers that people were sharing this week. I think
Sure.
that there probably is something to that. And then the other thing is you have seen the number of new listings start to ease up off of its bottom too, right?
For sure.
Not a lot. Like it's just been very gradual. I would say that new listings really bottomed out 2022 right at the heart of that rate shock, right? And 23 for the year was the low for the year for the new listings. And then 24 was a bit above, just a bit. Like we're talking like you're taking like have you ever seen that video clip of the refs in a football game where the ref actually took a piece of paper and
I did.
True. Like that's kind of what you're talking about for the new listing increase. And then
Got it.
2025 was a little bit more. And so you're probably like, Lance, why are you bringing up new listings for purchase applications? Well, the specific group of new listings that have been gone for the market the past few years is that churn person,
Yeah,
right?
they
Where
move
they
up.
sell their house, buy something else, but because that huge payment shock, if they sold and bought at these higher rates, is there, they kind of waited. They put it off, right?
Agreed.
But some of those new listings and that seller who is selling to buy something else comes back in the market. When they list they sell, they got to buy something else, right?
Yep, exactly.
So as that increases, if that is the specific part creating the increase, well, because they bring supply with them, it's not really like demand swinging up that much because whatever demand they're bringing, they're also brought that supply right with them, right? And so it's not that increase in purchase applications hasn't created much of a tightening effect on the market, right? Now we have kind of maybe that's played a little bit of a role in the deceleration in inventory growth, but I'm also skeptical of that because while we've seen apps increase, we haven't really seen absorption of sales swing up, right? Sales are, yeah, if you kind of squint and look at it really close, kind of like with the new listings, yeah, it's kind of up a tad. But really where you would start to argue that demand is upswinging demand has really tightened the market. If you were to argue a tightening, you would see sales increase, right? You would see that demand swing in, and then the sales would increase. And if that's what swings up the inventory, that's different, right? Whereas if you have inventory and it rolls over after a really big upswing, but sales stay very low, like Southwest Florida has the past 6 months, and you go over and you look at it, well, it's because they delisted, right? That's kind of a bit of a different story. But the other thing is like, I don't know if the market really wants any type of tightening, right? Because you kind of want to stay here for a bit.
Oh,
so
for
you
sure.
have that low rate of appreciation and you have incomes exceed it and you have more of that healing to take us to a healthier housing market.
Yeah, another couple of years of this would be okay by me. That's for sure. Lance,
and it's not going to take you a couple more years of this is not going to take you back to 2019 levels, but a few more years of this will get you closer to the historic average. And I think that is one thing for people to keep in mind. And I have to remind myself of this all the time, which is, that last decade, right? The 2010s decade, that's the best ever housing affordability decade coming out of, because we have the crash and we have an overcorrection and affordability goes to historic lows, right?
Yep.
And so where you were in 18, 19, that's below the average of affordability, right? And now we have gone from low levels, like good affordability, quote unquote good, to bad very quickly. Like 2022, we just swung all the way from one side to the other. But if we have a few more years of what we had in 2025, we will get closer back to that.
Get back to trend. That's right.
Yeah.
Lance, you have all the data. You got all the trackers. Where can people check it out?
Yeah, they can find me at resiclubanalytics.com, put in their email, sign up for my newsletter. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Lance Lambert. You can find me on Twitter @NewsLambert.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy. Take care.